Mike, check 1212. It's the Y2K collector, and the future is dark. I do believe that the sun is setting for many types of consoles when it comes to collecting for these consoles moving into 2025. And by sun setting, I mean that it is just going to be extremely difficult to collect for certain consoles. So difficult that you might see a lot of people just give up altogether. Now, it doesn't mean that if you happen to find some of these games in the wild that you won't get them, but I do think that in large part there are some consoles that I think people are just going to be moving away from, and we'll probably see the final push with certain consoles moving into 2025. So I feel like for consoles like the Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo, the NES, those are consoles that I feel like you're really going to find the good games for those consoles at like gaming conventions, traditional mom and pop shops. Finding stuff out in the wild for those consoles is going to be needle in a haystack. It's going to be very uncommon because a lot of that, inventory has either landed into the hands of resellers and they're in someone's stores, either in their online store or in their brick and mortar store, or they've found themselves a home on the shelf of a collector. So I feel like for that generation, it's really tough. The good stuff for that generation, meaning the games that a lot of people want, are priced really high. And it's just, I don't think people are having as much fun collecting for those systems. I do think in 2025, we will probably see the last push for Gen 6. And this is Gen 6 right here. So GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2, Sega Saturn. That is going to be your Gen 6. Well, could you say Sega Saturn? Sega Saturn is probably more Gen 5. So we'll throw Sega Saturn out. But for sure, Gen 6 is going to be GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2, and for sure Dreamcast. This is going to be where we probably see the last big push for these consoles. And I say that because I've seen in the second half of 2024, more people sell off their Dreamcast and PlayStation 2 collections than almost anything else. By far, I found more PlayStation 2 games in the wild than any other console, which is something that I couldn't say a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, I would run into Sega Genesis games all the time. I would run into Super Nintendo games a lot. Even N64, PlayStation 1, I'd run into those types of games. But now what we're seeing the pretty much the last stand of the sixth generation. Now, GameCube has always been popping. It's always been a popular console to collect for. People have always wanted GameCube games. But I think we're going to see a little bit of a push for original Xbox, especially with some of the things that's going to be going on with Microsoft in 2025. You're going to see a little bit of a resurgence when it comes to Xbox for sure, original Xbox games. And PlayStation 2 is going to continue to percolate. I think it's going to be because there's a lot of nostalgia that's going to run its course for these two consoles, for this generation. You have people who do have a lot of nostalgia for PlayStation 2 games that are still stuck on the PlayStation 2 and have not been ported to any other console or system, that have not made their way to the Switch. You still got a lot of PlayStation 2 games that people haven't experienced yet, and I think they're going to be going for. And that's what you're going to see. So in my opinion, if PlayStation 2 is something that you really want to build, or if you've been building a collection and you don't have as much PlayStation 2 as you want, I get the feeling that next year is probably going to be like the last real push to find cool games out in the wild, or even at places like GameStop and things like that. Because like I said, you've got a lot of people trading that stuff in, getting rid of that stuff, and you're going to see a lot of the more quality titles exchange hands, especially in the beginning of the year. In fact, I have a deal that I'm working on that I think is going to come through. I've gotten word about a seller who's getting rid of a lot of PlayStation 2 stuff. Some games that I don't yet have in my collection that I might be interested in the beginning of the year. We'll see. But 2025 for me is going to be really mostly about the Switch, seeing what happens with the Switch 2, and of course, PlayStation 5 now that I'm in that ecosystem. Christmas was good to me. I got some gift cards, so definitely going to be burning some gift cards on some video games. I'm excited about that. And as far as like Gen 7, I think it's funny. Like, even though Gen 7 is newer than Gen 6, I feel like we've moved on from Gen 7 already. I feel like collectors have already moved on from the 7th generation of gaming, just because this is what's been thrown in our face the most, especially when we go to places like GameStop, mom and pop shops, and things like that. We've been kind of bombarded with a lot of 360 and PS3 and even Nintendo Wii. So I feel like I don't know if there's going to be a nostalgia hit for this generation, but I don't see it being as potent as Gen 6. In large part because a lot of Gen 7 we saw on Gen 8. So it's going to be interesting to see where, like, PS3 and Xbox 360 lands in 2025, what the interest is going to look like for those consoles. But I really see things perking up for Gen 6. Now, when it comes to the Switch, I have some catching up to do because there are some games that I just did not get that I need to, that I have on my wish list already. And I'll share some of with you on this, in this video, in case you're wondering. One of them is Tevi. Tevi is a really cool RPG Metroidvania style game. It's a 2D sprite-based game. Tevi is one that I definitely need to get. I'm anxious to get that one into the collection. Also, I need to get Steel Assault back into the collection, as well as Death's Gambit. Death's Gambit is another one that I do need to get back into the collection. So those are 3 Switch games that I'm really, working on adding back in. When it comes to Switch games that I'm anticipating, well, Itora, I think that's how you say it. Itora is one that I've got my eye on. It's a few months away, so I have to wait on that one. You guys have heard me talk about Ninja Gaiden Outrage or Rage Outblast or something like that. It's basically the newest 2D Ninja Gaiden game that's going to be coming out. That one I've got on my radar. And there are a few others, but the name of the game is going to be Switch. And then whatever snaggletooth games I can pick up as I run into them out in the wild, that's what I'm going to be going for. I'm not going to say no to quality retro games that come my way in 2025, but I'm not going to be like hunting for them how I was this year. So let me know what you think is going to be the next wave for 2025. What systems or consoles are you looking to collect for? And I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.